Our students who participate in early college, when they do matriculate to that four-year university, they are well better prepared for the rigor
opportunities that we have for students. For example, the opportunities here today.
All right. Good afternoon and welcome to the Focus Show. I am your host, Carl Daines Jr. And today I have a very, very special guest. I have Cheryl Nelson, who is the host of Coast Live that comes on News Channel 3, 9 a.m. in the mornings. Welcome, Cheryl, to the Focus Show.
Hey, Carl, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So the first thing is, what inspired you to go into this field of communications?
It's interesting because my initial interest started with weather. As a child, I knew at 9 years old that I wanted to be a broadcast meteorologist. I was obsessed with snow. I was born in Connecticut and then moved to Richmond when I was 9. And in Richmond, as you know, the rain-snow line is very important right there along I-95. And I used to watch all the local meteorologists to get their forecast and come up with my own forecast. Well, that love for weather continued, and I said, I want to tell people this. So I went to Penn State University, got my degree in meteorology. I did TV weather for about a decade, and then transitioned into TV hosting. I love the weather. I love talking about the weather, but I also wanted to interact with some people. When you're doing the weather, it's normally just interacting with a camera. And I love having people there and getting to share their stories as well.
Okay. When you talked about meteorology, for somebody who may be interested in meteorology, what type of courses would they have to take to become a meteorologist involving weather?
I get this question all the time. And what I tell people is if you have an interest in weather, if you're fascinated by the atmosphere and Mother Nature, take as many math classes, science classes as you can. Communication classes are also very important. And I would say start these at a young age. I know we get to do a lot of electives now, even younger in school. So you really want it to be STEM focused classes. And don't forget, journalism is always good to have as well, because journalism and meteorology go hand in hand, because now it might be not just reporting on the weather, but also doing stories on weather, space, and climate.
Okay. And when you talk about how you got involved in meteorology with the snow and stuff like that, what experience did you have with the snow to say, I want to go out and become a meteorologist and do my weathercast and tell what the weather is? What experience can you remember with the snow that made you say, this is what I wanted to do?
I would just get so excited when everything would be covered with that white blanket of snow. It was so pretty. They would cancel schools back then because obviously Zoom wasn't an option. So when it snowed, it meant no schools. That was exciting. But it also meant that I got an extra play day outside with my friends. It was great. You didn't have cell phones or other iPads and technology to spend your time on. We got dressed up, we went outside, got all cozy warm. We had saucers and sleds. And back then it would take several days for the plows to get to the neighborhoods, and school might be canceled for a week. And I specifically remember, and I was a little bit older at this point, the blizzard of 1996 in Richmond. We were out of school for a week. We got 18 inches of snow. I would sled down the hill on my street because there were no cars coming or going. It was just so much fun. It was so beautiful. And I was just fascinated that Mother Nature could produce that much snow from one storm, because as you know, it doesn't happen very often here in Virginia.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So when you talk about Coast Live now, you're going from meteorology to a variety show. How did that opportunity come about?
It's so funny to talk about this. People have told me all throughout my career, it's all about who you know. Yes, your experience and education matter. Yes, your personality matters, but it's about who you know. And I did a variety of jobs. After I left TV weather, One of them was I was the chief meteorologist for a company called Storm Pens, where we would go and basically train weather teams at different stations in the country how to use the Storm Pens app. And they would be using photos and videos and storm reports from people, and they were all kind of geo placed on a map, so you could see exactly where that information was coming from. So one of the stations where I was the news director at the time, he and I, hit it off. He really liked the app, and he was very interested in what we had to offer. Then I find out he moves to Norfolk, and he's the general manager of the TV station. And so we were still connected. And he said, "Hey, I think we're going to be starting this lifestyle show." And I said, "Oh my gosh, I've been wanting to make this transition to get more involved with people and share their stories. Can I audition?" And he goes, "Absolutely." Yeah. And that's how that happened.
Okay. So when you look at Coast Live and now you're coming into this variety show, how did your experience as a meteorologist and working in the newsroom and understanding that whole process, how did that help you to host or basically work on Coast Live?
As a meteorologist, I also did work as a reporter at different TV stations. So I was familiar with how the news rundowns work and working with producers. So that part was easy. Also, meteorologists, not a lot of people know this, but meteorologists don't read a teleprompter. We ad lib. Everything we say comes off the cuff. We see the weather graphics and we're just talking over them. So I knew that I had the ad lib skills to be a TV host, because as a TV host, a lot of that stuff is off the cuff. You're kind of just talking with your host and bantering back and forth. So that transition was pretty easy and pretty natural for me. And it's also so much fun. My co-host and I, April, we have so much great chemistry and we really enjoy it.
Okay. And when you talk about Coast Live, what is that like to host a show such as Coast Live, considering, you were a meteorologist, you were working in the newsroom, you were talking about hurricanes and all this different stuff, and now you're hosting Coast Live. What is that like to now host a show like that?
It's something that I always wanted to do and thought, how could I make a transition like that? But what I love doing is interacting with different people from the community and getting to know them and making them feel at ease and comfortable. For a lot of our guests, it's their very first time on TV. And I say, "Hey, we're just having a conversation here. We're going to make it fun. You're the expert. You're telling me about your topic or your brand or product, and you're going to show and tell, and we're going to have a good time." So it's something where it was just a very easy transition. And yeah, there are challenges from time to time. Sometimes people on satellite interviews aren't ready, or sometimes you lose the shot and you just have to roll with it, kind of like regular TV news. But it's something I'm very happy that I've gotten into. And April and I have both been hosting that show since 2016.
Wow. So I didn't realize it had been that long.
Yeah.
So we have to take a quick commercial break, but we'll be more with Cheryl Nelson right after these messages. So stay tuned. So hello and welcome back to the Focus Show. I'm your host, Carl Daniels, here with today's guest, Cheryl Nelson, who is one of the hosts for the Coast Live show that comes on News Channel 3 at 9 a.m. during the weekday. So we were talking about earlier about the transition going from meteorology to hosting Coast Live. What would you say as far as the preparation is concerned? What is the difference between you preparing to go on a newscast as a meteorologist compared to going on as a host for Coast Live?
Great questions. There are some similarities and some differences. As a meteorologist, broadcast meteorologist, we all make our own forecasts. So when you get in, you dive right into the computer, you look at all the computer models and you analyze the information, you look at the current conditions, and then you make the weather graphics. So you're doing a lot of stuff pretty quickly and a lot of analyzing right there before you even go on the air. As far as prepping for Coast Live, we get the show notes in advance, so we know who our guests are. We look at the scripts, we read them, and we might tweak some intros or write some scripts ourselves and kind of help craft some of the questions that we're going to ask our guests. And then before the show, we talk with the guests. We say, hey, this is what we're planning. How does this sound to you? What are the main topics that you want us to get across? And we make them feel at ease, make them feel at home. And that's how that show works.
Okay. And I understand that you're involved in like volunteer work. So explain some of the like volunteer work or community work that you do within the community.
Yeah, definitely. I'm on boards of directors for some organizations. And one of them that I was on, gosh, I served for a long time, the board of directors for the College of Earth and Mineral Sciences at Penn State University. That was great because we'd interact with students, alumni, and faculty to make the programs better and get the students more involved. That was a lot of fun. I did that for 7 years. I recently rotated off that board. I was also the recent chair of the American Meteorological Society broadcast board, and we would grade the demo reels or the tapes that people send in of their weathercasts trying to get certified to be a certified broadcast meteorologist. That was fun. I would also plan weather conferences for the American Meteorological Society, the broadcast component of that. And right now I serve on the board of directors for Talent Boulevard, which is basically like LinkedIn for TV broadcasters. It's a really great site. You can put your demo reel up there, your resume. There's great tools and tricks for people in the broadcast industry too. So we kind of help facilitate that and give feedback to help others and mentor other people coming into television.
That sounds great. That definitely will help,
Yeah.
especially young people, coming out of school, especially now that are into technology.
Yes.
How did this work of, community work, volunteer work, how did all this come about? What made you decide to do this?
I've always been a go-getter, and sometimes I might be a workaholic. I'm like, okay, how can I get more involved? How can I help? How can I mentor youth? I think that's something that I really enjoy doing, is helping people, because I was in their shoes once. I was looking up to mentors and I had the questions that were hard to get answers to. That's really what helps me thrive, knowing that I'm helping other people achieve their goals, reach their dreams and everything that they're trying to do.
Okay. And finally, is there any advice that you would give a young person who wants to enter this field, or maybe even host their own television show one day? Is there any type of advice that you would give those individuals?
Don't give up. Don't let somebody tell you you can't do it. When I was in middle school, I was a shy little girl. It's amazing. I remember we were talking about careers with our guidance counselors, and one of them said to me, so Cheryl, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I want to be a broadcast meteorologist. And she goes, you mean on TV news? I said, yes. She laughed at me. She laughed because I was so shy. And I remember that to this day. And I thought to myself, she doesn't think I can do this. Well, I will show her. And that really lit a fire under me. And that's when I said, I'm tenacious. I'm going to reach my goals, achieve my dreams, do what I want to do, and nobody's going to tell me that I can't do it. So anybody here watching or looking for words of wisdom or advice, know what you want to do and just don't stop. Put the time in, put the work in and the effort. It's not easy. I'll tell you that. I've been rejected before, and you just have to get back up and say, all right, got knocked down, but I'm going to get up and I'm going to keep going and keep trying. Because did I ever think I would get my own TV show? It was kind of a pipe dream. And then it happened, and I'm going, all right, I worked hard. I paid my dues, and here I am. So that's my advice to everybody else.
Okay. I'd like to thank you for joining us today on the Focus Show. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate you taking the time out to do this interview with us. And we thank you for the great advice that will certainly help students all across the board, including our students here in Newport News Public Schools. I'm Carl Daniels, and I am your host of the Focus Show, saying see you on the next time.